Hello, my name is Jenna Lee, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to our little piece of heaven, our home. Today, I really wanted to share with you guys what we eat on the weekend. The weekends are, well, sacred. It's a time to be together, to work together, to play together, and we like to eat good. So I wanted to share with you guys some of the recipes I'm cooking up this weekend. I like weekends to be a balance of convenient but wholesome, good food. Here on Saturday morning, we take it really slow. We usually have a classic big breakfast, but today I'm starting a apple baked pancake that I'm cooking here in the Dutch oven. And it's just an all-in-one type of dish. And we have so many apples and pears in the kitchen right now. So I thought this would be a great way to use up the apples. I don't have any brown sugar on hand, and that's why I am putting a little bit of molasses in my sugar and using that for the brown sugar in this recipe. It's super simple. I just start out by cooking some apples and some brown sugar and butter. And then I just made my classic pancake recipe that I've always made. And I pour that right over the top and bake it in the oven. I will be sure to put down the recipes that I use in today's video down in the description box. When I was first starting out as a homemaker, I was in awe of women who had recipes memorized, that they could just whip out muffins or pancakes or whatever recipes that they had cataloged in their minds. And over time, I have picked up some recipes that I have adapted into my own, and now I can whip those out myself. And so this is one of those recipes that I have cataloged in my mind that I use often when I'm not making sourdough pancakes. This is the recipe that I use for a quick, delicious whole wheat pancake. And this apple bake recipe is also something that my mom used to make growing up. So for me, it is definitely a homey, heartwarming breakfast recipe that really makes me feel at home. We serve it up with a little bit of maple syrup on top and some fried eggs. On the weekends, I want to make myself a bit more available for doing fun activities, going outside and doing things with the family. And so I'm going to put together a soup here in the Instapot, something that is very hands off. And so I'm just getting that started. And I'm making a classic butternut squash soup because it's fall and we're feeling all the fall fuzzy feelings, even though it's still quite warm outside on this Saturday. I start out by sauteing some bacon. I love the rich and fatty flavor that bacon adds to this butternut squash soup and the smokiness too. So I saute some bacon here in the Instapot, and I'm also going to be sauteing a little bit of onion and garlic in that bacon fat as well. I have some chicken bone broth that I had made previously in a video with you guys, and I have that frozen in the freezer, so I'm just going to thaw that out and use that in today's soup. But I have made this soup with water many times before, but it's going to be much richer with the bone broth. We're going to use some really warm aromatic spices in the soup today that really make it feel like a fall butternut squash soup. I'm going to be using some cumin, a little bit of nutmeg and cinnamon, salt and pepper, and a little bit of chili powder. I'm really just eyeballing these spices in here, but I'll make sure to list them down below. I like to add all the spices into the bacon fat and saute that with the garlic and the onion, and that really brings the richness and flavors out of the spices. And then I add the broth and scrape up all those bacon bits off the bottom, and then I add the squash. I'm going to set this to a high pressure cook for just 15 minutes, and this soup's going to come together pretty fast. To add a little bit of something to this soup, I'm going to prepare some sourdough croutons by using some day-old sourdough bread that I've made, cut it up into cubes. I'm going to dress it with some olive oil and some herbs, and we are going to put that into the oven. I'm just going to set it on 500 degrees or a low broil and toss that around in there. We're going to put these together pretty quick. You could also just set your oven to 500 degrees and then put these croutons in there and turn off the oven and just let them sit in there if you have plenty of time, and they are going to get nice and dry and crispy and crunchy. I like to add a cup of cream. This soup comes together so rich and so creamy. You could also opt to leave the cream out if you want this to be a dairy-free recipe.
Gonna let the sun shine in today. I'm trying to make this darkness go away. I'll paint with colors and I'll sing until my lungs give out. I'm gonna let the sun shine in today. And I will leave my windows open so spread my
All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, they say. But I think you could definitely say the same thing for a mama. Just taking a moment to go out on the paddleboard on the pond was so rejuvenating. And I can forget how important play is and how much balance it brings to my life. So I'm just popping into the house to put together a quick salad for dinner. I'm whipping up a homemade salad dressing here with some orange juice and olive oil. I'm adding some Dijon mustard, a little bit of garlic and honey, apple cider vinegar, salt and pepper, and some seasoning. I love a salad that is loaded with all sorts of vegetables, nuts, cheese, and especially some purple onions, whatever we have on hand. I did put those croutons back in the oven. They got even more crispy, and I thought I would throw those here on this salad. And the funny thing is, because I added croutons to the salad, all the kids wanted in on this salad. I'll take note of that for future salads. Some of the kids were begging for some pasta for dinner, so I thought, sure, it's Saturday. We'll just whip up some quick pasta, throw some pasta sauce on it. That is fast food for sure. As much cooking from scratch as I do in this kitchen, I wanted you all to know that I do put together a quick pasta with pasta sauce on it sometimes, and it's nice to have some convenient foods around the house as well. It's pretty commonplace to find Mr. Hardman in the kitchen sometimes here on the weekends. He's definitely an experimental cook and likes to put things together. This is a little apple crisp that he put together on a sheet pan, but I like seeing what he comes up with, and he does make a killer tomato juice from the garden. It is Sunday morning. I absolutely adore Sundays. They are so special. I am reaching for this cookbook that my mom put together. She compiled recipes that I grew up with and made it into a cute little cookbook for me when I got married. Today we are going to be making a pork shoulder roast that we are going to turn into shredded barbecue sandwiches on homemade rolls. I'm going to get started by searing this pork roast over here on a really hot stove, getting it nice and crispy, and then we're going to put it in an Instapot. I am going to be preparing our famous bread rolls. These are the rolls that I make every Thanksgiving, every Christmas. They are the special Sunday dinner rolls. I also make them for cinnamon rolls and all sorts of things. They are an enriched dough with butter and eggs and sugar. And yes, it's a yeasted dough. So I was disappointed to find that this roast was too large to actually fit inside the Instapot. So if you have a roast that's not too big, you can sear it off in your Instapot. But I had to cut mine down to size just to get it to fit. For this classic roast, I am adding lots of smoked paprika, a little bit of chili powder, a little bit of cumin, and some water, and of course salt and pepper. When I cook up a pork butt or shoulder roast, I like to really have this simple smoked seasoning so that I can use this meat in tacos or enchiladas. I can also use it in a barbecue pulled pork recipe. So I like to really keep the flavor simple so I can diversify it and use it in multiple recipes. When I'm putting this dough together, I only add half of the amount of flour, and then I mix that up, usually in my mixer for a good 2 to 3 minutes to really activate that gluten. And then I add the rest of the flour and go to kneading the dough. The recipe has you rise the dough for 1 hour and then actually put it in the fridge and chill it and cook it up the following day. But I expedite the process. I let it rise for 1 hour. I shape the dough. I let it rise again for another hour and bake it up when I want to make it the same day. While all of that is cooking up, I am putting together a little bit of appetizer. This is pretty much what we're having for lunch today, is this cream cheese with a homemade sweet pepper jelly that goes on top of it with some vegetables and ranch. When it comes to Sundays, I usually like to make one big gorgeous meal, and we kind of snack on other things for the rest of the day. Maybe have some leftovers. I didn't mention what we had for breakfast because usually on Sundays we are getting ready to go to church that morning. And so breakfast is often something left over from the days before. So maybe some quick oatmeal. Maybe I have some cold cereal in the house. It's usually something really quick. Jared always puts together the ranch. I want to say it's like an embellished ranch dressing. So he usually takes a ranch or a dressing that is store-bought and then adds lots of other seasonings, maybe a little bit of milk or mayo, and makes it really delicious. I do prefer it though over the store-bought stuff. And everybody loves a good snack over some cards. So that's what we're doing this Sunday afternoon. You can see some tomatoes here stewing on the stove. Jared has been making lots and lots of tomato juice. He loves to drink tomato juice, and he is not letting any of those tomatoes go to waste that are in the garden. This is the end of the summer garden, and the end of all of the tomatoes. So he's whipping up some delicious tomato juice to drink, and I'm just finishing up these rolls. They have rested and risen for 1 hour. And then I have shaped them into rolls and I'm letting them warm in the oven for another hour. And while that's going on, I'm going to put together a apple pie. Nothing says a homey Sunday dinner to me like a fresh pie. I grew up in Oregon and my mom was always cooking up fresh seasonal pies. So I'm starting this pie out with her famous buttery, flaky pie crust recipe. It calls for really cold butter. Mine was actually frozen. This recipe is simply just butter and flour and cold water. I'll make sure to put the recipe down below. The secret to a really buttery, flaky pie crust is working with really cold butter, getting that butter down to those pea-sized, just really small crumbles so it is throughout the pie crust. Working with cold water, you just want to keep that butter nice and cold through the whole process. And then not overworking the dough. Overworking the dough is what makes their crust kind of tough and chewy. I just found out that apple pie is actually my mom's favorite pie, which was surprising to me since she makes a lot of pies. So this one's for you, Mom. I'm thinking of you on this Sunday afternoon. I start my apple pie here on the stove. I add all of my apples that I'm going to be using, a little bit of lemon juice and some water, and just let that cook for a few minutes. You still want a good bite and crunch in those apples, but this is going to speed up the process a little bit. And I find that it really helps get that crust just right so it doesn't end up burning and having to cook too long in the oven. Now that my rolls are nice and plump and ready to bake, I'm going to put them in the oven at 400 degrees for just about 7 to 10 minutes. I really have to watch these here and make sure that I don't overcook them. Then I'm mixing my dry ingredients for my pie. It's just some flour, sugar, cinnamon, some allspice and nutmeg, a little bit of salt. And then I'm mixing that up with my apples. I used to be so intimidated by pie making. It literally used to give me anxiety when I thought about making a pie and getting the pie crust just right. But like so many things here in the kitchen, I find that practice is just what you need. Making pies over and over and over again, making lots of really bad pies as well, just helps you get more comfortable with the process. No matter how the pie crust turns out, it's not always going to be perfect every time. Serve it up with some whipped cream or some ice cream. We eat it anyway, and it's always good. I know it sounds cheesy, but I think the secret ingredient to any pie is love and the good intentions that go into it. So here's to many more years of pie making and perfecting the art of a perfect buttery pie crust. When those rolls come out of the oven, the first thing I do is smooth them over with some butter. Now I'm going to prepare some pickled purple onions to go on our barbecue sandwiches. I absolutely love all things pickled. So I put this together really quickly. I put together a half a cup of water with a half a cup of vinegar, a tablespoon of sugar, and let that come to a boil on the stove. I chop up those onions and I pour that hot liquid right over the fresh onions and let that sit for a little bit. What I love about the Instapot is if the pork roast or any roast isn't quite to the tenderness that I am looking for, I just turn it right back on and let it cook until it is the tenderness that I'm looking for. I just want it to be falling right off the bones, nice and juicy and soft. I mixed in some of our favorite barbecue sauce, and voila, you have shredded barbecue pork sandwiches. I'm going to be topping it off with some homemade coleslaw. If you have sauerkraut, top it off with some sauerkraut and some quick pickled onions. Maybe a little bit more barbecue sauce, but this is a delicious meal for any time, actually. Now I have all this shredded pork to make many more meals with throughout this week, so it's kind of perfect for starting the week off with. And the perfect way to end this weekend of meals is with some homemade apple pie topped with some fresh homemade whipped cream. Guys, it doesn't get any better than this. I hope you guys loved this video. I would love to chat with you down in the comments below. Let me know you guys are here. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell button so you know when I make a new video every week. And I'll catch you next time. Love you lots.